from a landowner's perspective, are there certain things that you can not dictate necessarily, but like, how's that conversation go? Because I'm sure every logger's like, this, douchebag is asking me to do this, this, and this, and I'm just trying to get in there.
Don't leave ruts.
Yeah, I mean, and I understand it's big, heavy equipment, and we could probably talk about the time of year or two that makes the most sense to do the bulk of your logging. But shit happens and messes are going to be made. But is there an expectation as to what it should look like when you're done and leaving the property?
Well, a lot of it's really going to depend on how heavy the timber was cut. You know what I mean? Like if it's a heavy cut, the worse it's going to look. But doesn't always mean that's bad. Like the woods may have needed it. Like it may have been a really mature woods, and it may have needed a heavy cut to get it going again and get it started back up and getting that regeneration. Or it may be they just did a select cut, and typically like in a select cut, I look more for like, them not dropping trees into other good trees, like trying to do a good job directionally felling them, not skinning up all the other timber, trying to drag out the logs, doing a good job with their skid roads and soil management as far as like BMPs and, hilly country, best management practices like, water bars, things like that, seeding the landing when they're done, or areas like if it's a steep slope, those areas should be seeded pretty good. Don't have to necessarily put straw on them, but put your water bars in and put some seed down. Or you can put your own down because maybe you want to feed the deer in a sense and you want certain seed mixes. But you're always going to have tree tops. If you're using it for deer hunting, I would suggest not lopping the tops. And what that means is lopping the tops is kind of like a lot of foresters or people want you to cut the tops down as like under 4 feet. Like when you cut the tree down, you go out into the limbs and you lay them down so they'll rot quicker. As far as a deer hunter goes, that's not what I would suggest. I would suggest leaving those tops a little higher. It creates bedding, gives structure for the deer to get under. It also protects a lot of the seedlings that are regenerating and growing. The deer don't get to everything. Kind of creates some good nesting habitat for turkeys, things like that. There's a lot of terms out there like, DBH, like, diameter cuts. Like, we're going to cut your timber 18 inches DBH, which would be 18 inches diameter at breast height. So, that's going to be a fairly heavy cut if it's, heavy timber. If it's, spotty timber, it may not be as heavy of a cut. Stump limits are usually wiped out. Like if you do a 16-inch stump limit or less, you're wiping your whole woods out. There's not going to be much left. I typically tend to try to get people to do more of a marking situation. Like let's go in and mark the timber that should be cut. Unless again, it's a vast, say it's like an area that really needs it needs a heavy cut to get going. Then you can do, a stump limit or a diameter limit, figure out how much board footage per acre is there and come up with your numbers that way. When it comes to like finding somebody to tell you how much that's worth or all those, that's where it gets dicey for landowners to try to figure out, are they dealing with the right guy, and again, that's where it comes into like, really doing your homework. Percentage logging kind of takes the guess out of that in a sense, because that logger wants to make as much as he can make. True, once he puts those logs on a pile, he wants to make as much as he can too. So he's going to do the best he can generally to get the most he can out of them fancy logs. Here there's so much competition that buying it on the stump, we need the wood, so we're bidding hard against it. Sometimes we leave too much money on the table. Sometimes we don't get the jobs. It's fierce. If there's not a lot of competition out there, selling it on the stump may not be your best bet because the guy's going to keep himself safe. So if you're going to sell it on a stump, at least get 3 bids and make sure they don't know each other.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content.